The gun pressed against her temple felt cold, unforgiving. Zara Williams stood frozen in her father's study, watching as he signed away her life to a man she had never met. Her hands trembled at her sides, not from the weapon aimed at her head, but from the raw anger coursing through her veins. This wasn't supposed to be her life. 26 years old with a freshly minted business degree, dreams of opening her own fashion boutique, and now, traded like property to save her family from financial ruin. "It's done," her father whispered, sliding the contract across the mahogany desk to the stone-faced lawyer. "My daughter for the debt." The man holding the gun, one of the Billionaire's security team, finally lowered his weapon but kept his cold eyes fixed on her. Zara wanted to scream, to run, but where would she go? Her family's protection company had been going under for months. The loans her father had taken from Alexander Stone, tech mogul and ruthless businessman, had seemed like salvation at first. But when the payments couldn't be made, Stone had offered an alternative: marriage to clear the debt. "The ceremony will be tomorrow," the lawyer announced, tucking the contract into his briefcase. "Mr. Stone has arranged everything. Miss Williams, a car will collect you at 9 in the morning. Bring only personal items. Mr. Stone will provide everything else you require." Zara found her voice, though it cracked with emotion. "And if I refuse?" The lawyer's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Your family's debt remains. Your father's company will be liquidated immediately. Your parents will lose their home. Your younger brother's college fund, gone. And there are other ways Mr. Stone could recoup his investment. Less pleasant ways." The threat hung in the air like poison. Zara looked at her father, hoping to see some fight left in him, some willingness to protect his daughter. Instead, she saw only defeat and shame in the slump of his shoulders, in the way he couldn't meet her eyes. "You should prepare, Miss Williams," the lawyer continued. "Mr. Stone expects his bride to be presentable." After they left, silence filled the room. Zara stood motionless, feeling as though she'd been hollowed out. Her mother appeared in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. "Baby, I'm so sorry," she whispered, reaching for her daughter. Zara stepped back. "Did you know? All this time, was this the plan?" Her father finally looked up. "It wasn't supposed to be like this. I thought I could turn things around. Stone wasn't supposed to call in the debt so soon. So you just sacrifice me?" The words tasted bitter on her tongue. "Sell your daughter to a man who sends armed men to ensure the deal goes through? You don't understand the position we're in." Her father's voice rose with desperation. "He would destroy us all. At least this way." "This way what?" "I become some billionaire's property and you get to keep your house." Zara's voice shook with rage. "What do you know about him? Besides that he's rich and ruthless." Her parents exchanged glances. "He's private," her mother offered weakly. "But very successful. Self-made. His tech company is worth billions. He's also known for being cold. Calculating," her father added. "But he's never been married. No scandals with women. He's respectable at least." Zara laughed, a hollow sound. "Respectable men don't buy wives." In her bedroom, Zara stared at her reflection in the mirror. What did Alexander Stone see when he looked at her photo? Did he choose her, or was she just collateral damage in his business dealings with her father? She'd heard rumors about him. A man who built an empire from nothing, whose cold efficiency was legendary in business circles, who lived alone in a penthouse overlooking the city and rarely appeared in public. Tomorrow she would marry this stranger. This man who had never spoken a word to her, never bothered to meet her before claiming her life. Her phone buzzed with a text from her best friend Tiana. "Girl, where are you? We're waiting at the restaurant." Zara had forgotten about their dinner plans, a celebration for her graduation. Another life now slipping away. She couldn't tell them yet. Couldn't form the words to explain that tomorrow she would become Mrs. Alexander Stone, trophy wife to a billionaire. Instead, she texted back, "Sorry, family emergency. Rain check." Then she began to pack. Not much, some clothes, photos, her journal. Her fingers lingered on the business plan she'd created for her boutique. Dreams on paper now worthless. She tucked it into her bag anyway. As night fell, a new text arrived from an unknown number. "I expect you to honor our arrangement without complications. The car will arrive at 9 a.m. sharp. Do not be late." As no greeting, no reassurance, not even a pretense of humanity. Just cold instructions from her future husband. Zara stared at the message until her vision blurred with tears of frustration. Then, wiping her eyes, she began to formulate a plan. If Alexander Stone thought she would be a docile, grateful bride, he was about to learn otherwise. She might be forced into this marriage, but she wouldn't surrender her spirit. He owned her debt, not her soul. She would enter his world, learn his weaknesses and find a way out. Or perhaps, find a way to make him regret ever making this deal. If she had to play the role of wife to a billionaire, she would make sure it cost him more than he had bargained for. Outside, rain began to fall, pattering against her window like the countdown to her sentence. In less than 24 hours, Zara Williams would cease to exist, and Mrs. Stone would take her place. But they would all discover that changing her name wouldn't change who she was inside. And Alexander Stone, for all his money and power, had no idea what kind of woman he was about to chain himself to. As she packed the last of her belongings, Zara made a silent promise to herself. This wouldn't be the end of her story. It would be the beginning. And she would write the rest of it on her own terms. The wedding dress laid out on the hotel bed looked like something from a fairy tale. White satin and lace, handcrafted beading that caught the light, a train that would trail behind her like a royal cape. It was stunning. It was perfect. Zara hated it with every fiber of her being. Mr. Stone selected it himself, explained the stylist who had been waiting in the hotel suite when Zara arrived. He was very specific about the design. Of course he was. Alexander Stone, controlling everything down to what she would wear as she signed away her freedom. The car had collected her precisely at 9, whisking her not to a church or courthouse, but to the city's most exclusive hotel. A team awaited her. Hairstylist, makeup artist, the wedding coordinator, all working with efficient precision and zero warmth. The ceremony will be at noon in the rooftop garden, the coordinator informed her, checking items off a tablet. Small affair. Just the necessary witnesses and the officiant. Mr. Stone values his privacy. How convenient, Zara muttered. No friends or family to witness this sham. The coordinator didn't even blink. Mr. Stone thought it would be easier this way. Easier to pretend this was normal? Easier to control the narrative? Zara wanted to refuse, to tear the beautiful dress to shreds and walk out. But the memory of the gun against her temple, the threats against her family, they kept her rooted in place as the team transformed her into the perfect bride for a man she'd never met. By 11:30, Zara barely recognized herself in the mirror. Her naturally curly hair had been styled into an elegant updo, tendrils framing her face. The makeup enhanced her features while looking deceptively natural. The dress fit as though it had been made for her body, hugging her curves before flowing out at the hips. She looked like a bride from a magazine, beautiful, perfect, and completely miserable. It's time, the coordinator announced, handing Zara a bouquet of white roses and orchids. The elevator ride to the rooftop felt like ascending to her own execution. When the doors opened, Zara was momentarily stunned by the beauty of the setting. The garden was lush with greenery and white flowers, the city skyline providing a dramatic backdrop. A small archway covered in roses stood at the far end, where a handful of people waited. And there, standing tall and imposing in a perfectly tailored black suit, was Alexander Stone. Even from a distance, his presence commanded attention. Tall, broad-shouldered, with skin the color of burnished bronze. As Zara approached, each step feeling heavier than the last, she took in the details of the man who had bought her: short-cropped black hair with a touch of silver at the temples, a strong jawline darkened with precisely trimmed stubble, and eyes so dark they appeared almost black, watching her with clinical detachment. There was no music, no procession. Just Zara walking toward her fate, clutching her bouquet so tightly her knuckles ached. When she reached him, Alexander Stone didn't smile. Didn't speak. Just gave her a curt nod before turning to the officiant. The ceremony was brief, stripped of all sentiment or tradition. No vows of love or devotion, just legal statements, commitments of fidelity and support. When prompted to place the ring on her finger, Stone's touch was impersonal, efficient. The platinum band felt like a shackle closing around her finger. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the officiant declared, without the customary permission to kiss the bride. Stone didn't reach for her. Instead, he simply turned to his lawyer, the same cold-eyed man from her father's study, and nodded. "The paperwork?" Inside a private dining room, Zara signed her name beside his on the marriage certificate, acutely aware that among the other documents were revised loan agreements for her father, now showing the debt as paid in full. Her signature was literally buying her family's freedom with her own. "Mrs. Stone," Alexander addressed her for the first time, his voice deep and smooth as aged whiskey. "We'll be leaving for my home shortly. I've arranged for your things to be delivered." "My things? You mean the single suitcase I was allowed to bring?" His expression didn't change. "You'll want for nothing material in our arrangement. I've had a wardrobe prepared according to your measurements. How thoughtful, Zara replied, unable to keep the sarcasm from her voice. Did you also pick out my underwear, or did you leave me that small choice? A flicker of something, annoyance? Amusement? Crossed his face so quickly she might have imagined it. The stylist handled those details. I'm not interested in controlling insignificant choices. Just the significant ones. Like who I marry. Stone's eyes narrowed slightly. Your father made that choice when he borrowed money he couldn't repay. I merely offered a solution that benefits everyone. Your family keeps their home and reputation. You gain financial security and social standing. I gain a wife for appearances. Simple business. Is that all I am? A business transaction. It's all any marriage truly is, Mrs. Stone. I'm just honest about it. He checked his watch. The car will be ready in 15 minutes. You may wish to change into something more suitable for travel. With that, he strode from the room, leaving Zara alone with her new reality and title. In the adjoining dressing room she found clothes laid out, a simple but clearly expensive black dress, designer heels, a cashmere wrap. Clothing fit for Mrs. Alexander Stone. Zara changed slowly, her mind racing through scenarios and possibilities. This man had bought her, yes, but he didn't know her. Didn't know that beneath her current compliance was a mind calculating, planning, waiting for the right moment. When she emerged, Stone was waiting, his face unreadable as he assessed her. For a moment, something like approval flickered in his eyes, but it vanished so quickly Zara thought she might have imagined it. Acceptable, he said, offering his arm with mechanical politeness. Shall we? In the elevator, surrounded by his security team, Zara finally asked the question that had been burning since this nightmare began. Why me? There are plenty of women who would willingly marry you for your money. Why force someone who clearly doesn't want this? Stone didn't look at her as he answered. Willing gold diggers come with complications and expectations. You, on the other hand, understand exactly what this is. A contract. A business arrangement. You have no illusions about love or romance clouding the terms. And what exactly are those terms? What does being your wife entail beyond wearing expensive clothes and signing my name when told? The elevator doors opened to the underground garage, where a sleek black limousine waited. Stone guided her toward it, his hand barely touching the small of her back. We'll discuss the details of our arrangement in private, he said as the driver opened the door. But rest assured, Mrs. Stone, I don't expect anything intimate from this marriage. This is about appearances, not pleasure. As the limousine pulled away from the hotel, Zara stared out the tinted window at the city passing by. She was now Mrs. Alexander Stone, wife to one of the most powerful men in the country. A man who had made it clear she was nothing more than a convenient prop in his public image. She should have felt relief at his assurance that he didn't want her body. Instead, she felt strangely insulted. Not that she wanted him to desire her, the thought of his touch made her skin crawl. But his dismissal was just another reminder that in his eyes, she wasn't even a woman. Just an asset acquired through a business deal. Well, Alexander Stone would soon learn that some assets couldn't be controlled by contracts and threats. Some assets had minds and plans of their own. The limousine curved up a long, winding driveway, passing through gates that closed automatically behind them. Zara leaned forward, getting her first glimpse of Alexander Stone's home, and her new prison. Estate was too modest a word for what spread before her. The mansion rose from manicured grounds like something from another century, stone and glass and sweeping architectural lines that spoke of both old money and modern sensibilities. Water features dotted the landscape, catching the afternoon light. Gardens bloomed with strategic perfection. It was beautiful, imposing, and utterly cold, much like its owner. Welcome home, Mrs. Stone, Alexander said as the car stopped at the grand entrance. The words sounded rehearsed, empty of any true welcome. A small army of staff awaited them, lined up with military precision. As Stone helped her from the car, his touch brief and impersonal, an older woman stepped forward. Her silver hair was pulled into a tight bun, her black dress crisp and formal, her expression professionally pleasant. Mrs. Stone, I'm Mrs. Reynolds, the house manager, she greeted Zara with a slight bow of her head. On behalf of the staff, welcome. We look forward to serving you. Zara nodded, uncertain of the protocol for a woman who had become lady of the manor through what amounted to human trafficking. Thank you, she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. Stone checked his watch. Mrs. Reynolds will show you to your rooms and acquaint you with the house. I have calls to make. We'll dine at 7. Mrs. Reynolds will ensure you're appropriately dressed. With that, he disappeared into the mansion, leaving Zara with the distinct feeling she'd just been handed off like a package delivery. Mrs. Reynolds proved to be efficient but not unkind as she led Zara through the sprawling mansion. The tour was dizzying: formal sitting rooms, a grand dining hall, libraries, studies, a home theater, an indoor pool, and multiple terraces overlooking the grounds. The decor was understated luxury, everything in tones of white, gray, and deep blue. Beautiful but sterile, like a museum rather than a home. "Mr. Stone entertains business associates here," Mrs. Reynolds explained as they passed yet another perfectly appointed sitting room. "Though not frequently. He values his privacy." "Does he have friends?" Zara asked, unable to imagine the cold man she'd married enjoying casual social interaction. Mrs. Reynolds' expression remained neutral. "Mr. Stone has associates. His work occupies most of his time and attention." Finally, they reached what Mrs. Reynolds called the mistress wing, on the mansion's east side. "These will be your private quarters, Mrs. Stone," she explained, opening double doors to reveal a suite that took Zara's breath away despite herself. A sitting room in soft creams and golds opened to a bedroom larger than her parents' entire first floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the gardens and a private terrace. A bathroom of marble and gold fixtures featured a soaking tub that could fit 4 people. Beyond that, a dressing room larger than her old bedroom housed built-in wardrobes already filled with clothing, all in her size. "Your personal items have been unpacked," Mrs. Reynolds informed her, gesturing to the few mementos from Zara's life strategically placed around the rooms. Her photos on a side table, her books on a shelf, her laptop on an elegant desk. The effect was surreal, these pieces of her real life arranged in this fantasy world like props in a stage setting. "Where are Mr. Stone's rooms?" Zara asked, noting the single king-sized bed in her bedroom. "The master suite is in the west wing," Mrs. Reynolds replied without blinking. "Mr. Stone prefers separate accommodations. It's not uncommon in marriages of this nature." "Marriages of this nature." A delicate way of saying forced unions for business purposes. "I see." Zara walked to the windows, looking out at the expanse of property stretching to distant security fences. "Am I allowed to leave the grounds?" Mrs. Reynolds hesitated just for a second. "Mr. Stone values security. The grounds are extensive, over 30 acres, with gardens, walking paths, a tennis court, and stables. There's little need to leave. But should you wish to go into the city, arrangements can be made with appropriate security." Translation: She was a prisoner in a gilded cage. "Your wardrobe has been selected according to Mr. Stone's specifications," Mrs. Reynolds continued, moving to the dressing room. "For evenings, these selections would be appropriate." She gestured to a section of cocktail dresses and formal wear. "Mr. Stone appreciates punctuality and appropriate attire at dinner." Zara ran her fingers along the designer labels, each item clearly expensive yet conservative. "And if I choose to wear something else?" Mrs. Reynolds' smile tightened slightly. "Mr. Stone has been very generous in providing for your needs, Mrs. Stone. It would be advisable to respect his preferences, particularly as you're adjusting to your new position." After Mrs. Reynolds left, Zara explored her suite, opening drawers and closets, looking for cameras or listening devices, finding none obvious but not ruling out their existence. In the desk drawers she found stationery embossed with her new name, Mrs. Zara Stone. She stared at it, the reality of her situation hitting her anew. In the bathroom she found every luxury product imaginable, but no phone. Her cell had been taken upon arrival at the hotel earlier, with the promise that she would receive a suitable replacement. No doubt one that Stone could monitor. At precisely 6:30, a young woman arrived to help her dress for dinner. Amara, as she introduced herself, was friendly but professional as she laid out Zara's options, all in the dark blues and blacks that seemed to dominate Stone's aesthetic preferences. "Mr. Stone normally dines alone," Amara commented as she helped Zara into a simple but elegant navy dress. "The staff is curious about you." Zara met the woman's eyes in the mirror. "Because of how suddenly this marriage happened?" Amara's hand stilled briefly before she continued arranging Zara's hair. "Mr. Stone is a very private person. There have been no women here, not since I started 3 years ago. Some of us wondered if he even... well..." She blushed slightly. "And then suddenly a wife." "It was sudden for me too," Zara said, deciding honesty, or a version of it, might gain her an ally. "An arranged marriage. Old-fashioned, I know." "Oh." Understanding dawned in Amara's eyes. "That explains." "Well, I'm sure you'll find your place here, Mrs. Stone. Mr. Stone can be demanding but he's fair." At 5 minutes to 7, Zara followed another staff member through the mansion's winding hallways to the smaller of two dining rooms. Stone was already seated at the head of a table set for two, his attention on a tablet in his hand. He didn't look up when she entered, didn't acknowledge her until she was seated at his right hand. "You're punctual." "Good," he said, finally setting aside his device. His eyes scanned her appearance with the clinical assessment of someone inspecting merchandise. "The dress is suitable." "I live to please," Zara replied, unable to keep the edge from her voice. Something that might have been amusement flickered in his dark eyes. "I doubt that very much, Mrs. Stone. But as long as you live to fulfill our arrangement, your personal feelings are irrelevant." Servers appeared, silent and efficient, placing the first course before them. The meal progressed with minimal conversation. Stone asked no personal questions, showed no interest in getting to know the woman he had married. Instead, he outlined expectations. She would attend certain business functions with him, present herself as the devoted wife, learn enough about his company to make appropriate conversation with business associates. "Your time is otherwise your own," he informed her between bites of perfectly cooked steak. "You may use the facilities here, pursue hobbies, whatever keeps you occupied. Mrs. Reynolds will arrange for any reasonable requests." "Am I allowed contact with my family? Friends?" "Within reason. All communication passes through security first. For everyone's protection. And if I wanted to work? I have a business degree, you know." Stone paused, his knife and fork poised above his plate. "A job would complicate our arrangement. However, you seem to consider something. My charitable foundation could use someone to review grant applications. If you're determined to be productive, Mrs. Reynolds can provide the details." It wasn't freedom, but it was something. A potential opening Zara could use. As dinner concluded, Stone checked his watch. "I have calls to make. A car will collect you at 10 tomorrow morning for a fitting at Caroline's on 5th. You'll need appropriate attire for the Technological Innovation Gala next week, your first public appearance as my wife." He stood, signaling the end of their time together. But as he moved to leave, Zara couldn't resist one more question. "Mr. Stone," she called, making him pause. "How long? How long do you expect me to live this charade?" He turned, his expression unreadable in the dining room's soft lighting. "Our contract stipulates a minimum of 2 years. After that, we'll renegotiate based on circumstance." 2 years of her life. 2 years as a possession, a prop, a pretty accessory to a cold man's public image. "And if I find this arrangement intolerable?" she challenged. Stone's smile was slight and chilling. "Then I suggest you develop better acting skills, Mrs. Stone. Because the consequences of breaking our contract would be significant. For everyone involved." With that, he left her alone in the cavernous dining room, surrounded by luxury and emptiness, the weight of her new golden shackles pressing heavier than ever. For the next week, Zara barely saw her husband. Alexander Stone left the mansion before she woke and returned long after she'd retired to her suite. Their only interactions were brief, formal exchanges at dinner, which he attended only 3 times that week, sending apologies via Mrs. Reynolds on other evenings. It should have been a relief. Instead, it felt like another form of control, keeping her off balance, unsure of her place in this strange new world. She spent her days exploring the grounds, familiarizing herself with the mansion's layout, and cautiously testing the boundaries of her gilded cage. The staff maintained a polite distance, friendly but reserved, clearly uncertain how to treat this sudden addition to the household. Amara proved to be a potential ally, sharing small bits of information about Stone as she helped Zara dress each day. "He works constantly," Amara told her while arranging Zara's hair one morning. "Mrs. Reynolds says he sleeps only 4 or 5 hours a night. Sometimes he doesn't leave his office for days." "What exactly does his company do?" Zara asked, realizing she knew almost nothing about the business empire that had enabled Stone to effectively purchase her. Stone Technologies develops security systems, both digital and physical. Their newest platform is revolutionizing how companies protect their data. That's why the gala is so important. Mr. Stone is receiving an innovation award. The gala. Her debut as Mrs. Alexander Stone. Zara had spent hours at the boutique being fitted for a gown that cost more than her parents' car. A sleek, sophisticated creation in midnight blue that draped her body like liquid silk. The seamstress had fussed over every detail while Stone's personal stylist instructed her on appropriate jewelry, makeup and deportment for the event. "Remember, you're representing the Stone brand now," the stylist had reminded her repeatedly. "Elegance and restraint are key." On the night of the gala, Zara stood in her dressing room, staring at her reflection. The woman in the mirror looked like a stranger, polished, perfect, draped in luxury. Her natural curls had been styled into a sophisticated updo, her makeup enhancing her features while maintaining the restrained elegance demanded by her husband's image. A knock at the door preceded Mrs. Reynolds, who entered with a velvet box. "Mr. Stone sent these for tonight," she said, opening the lid to reveal a stunning sapphire and diamond necklace with matching earrings. "They're beautiful," Zara admitted as Mrs. Reynolds fastened the necklace around her throat. The weight of the stones felt like another form of collar, beautiful but binding. Alexander was waiting at the bottom of the grand staircase when she descended. For once, his expression showed something beyond cool detachment as his eyes traveled over her. It wasn't desire, exactly, but appreciation, the kind one might show for a particularly impressive piece of art. "You look appropriate," he said, offering his arm with mechanical courtesy. "The car is waiting." In the limousine, Stone briefed her on the evening ahead, who would be present, what topics to discuss, what to avoid. "If anyone asks about our sudden marriage, the story is simple. We met through mutual business connections, had a private courtship, and preferred a small, private ceremony." "A fairy tale romance?" Zara commented drily. Stone's mouth twitched. "Hardly. But a believable narrative for public consumption. No one needs to know the details of our arrangement." "And if they ask how we fell in love?" His dark eyes met hers, unblinking. "You were impressed by my business acumen and vision for the future. I was captivated by your intelligence and grace under pressure. Simple, plausible, and easy to remember. Not exactly the stuff of romance novels." "Romance is fiction, Mrs. Stone. Our story merely needs to be credible, not inspiring." He straightened his already perfect tie. "Remember, these people aren't friends, they're business associates, competitors, potential investors. Every interaction has purpose." The gala was held at the city's most prestigious hotel, its ballroom transformed into a futuristic wonderland with holographic displays and cutting-edge technology demonstrations at every turn. As they entered, Zara felt the weight of eyes turning toward them, curious and assessing. "Alexander Stone," murmured a woman nearby. "And that must be the mysterious new wife we've been hearing about." Stone's hand settled at the small of her back, guiding her through the crowd with practiced ease. His touch was firm but impersonal, a shepherd directing his prize sheep. As they moved through the gathering, he introduced her to a blur of faces and names, his script never varying. "My wife, Zara. My wife." Two small words that felt enormous in their falseness. For her part, Zara played her role with a precision that seemed to surprise Stone. She smiled warmly, engaged in conversation, displayed just enough knowledge of his business to be impressive without overstepping. The years of helping at her family's company had taught her how to navigate business functions, how to make small talk with important people, how to listen for the information beneath the pleasantries. "You're quite good at this," Stone murmured as they moved between groups. "Better than I anticipated." "Disappointed you didn't get a socially awkward bride?" she countered quietly, maintaining her smile for onlookers. "On the contrary. It makes my investment more valuable." Investment. Another reminder of exactly what she was to him. The true test came when an older couple approached, the man embracing Stone with genuine warmth, the first real emotion Zara had seen directed at her husband. "Alexander, my boy," the man exclaimed. "And this must be the lucky woman who finally captured the most eligible bachelor in technology." "Richard, Margaret, this is my wife Zara," Stone introduced them, his tone subtly warmer. "Richard was my first investor back when Stone Technologies was just an idea in a garage." "More like a basement," Richard laughed, taking Zara's hand. "My dear, you must be extraordinary to have convinced this workaholic to take time away from his empire building." Zara felt Stone tense beside her, waiting for her response. This was clearly someone important to him, someone whose opinion mattered. "I think it was more a case of right place, right time," she replied with a genuine smile. "Alexander has taught me that timing is everything in business, and perhaps in love as well." Stone's hand tightened slightly on her waist, approval she realized with surprise. "Well, you've certainly been kept under wraps," Margaret said, assessing Zara with friendly curiosity. "Alexander never mentioned he was seeing anyone and suddenly, a wife. You must tell me how you met." As Zara recited their fabricated courtship, embellishing the bare bones Stone had provided with just enough detail to make it convincing, she watched his face from the corner of her eye. The subtle relaxation of his jaw, the almost imperceptible nod. He was pleased with her performance. Later, as Stone was pulled away to speak with potential investors, Zara found herself alone at their table, observing the room. The wealthy, the powerful, the connected, all orbiting around men like her husband, seeking favor, opportunity, advantage. "Mrs. Stone?" A young waiter appeared at her elbow. "Your husband asked me to bring you this." He placed a glass of champagne before her. Zara blinked in surprise. It was the first thoughtful gesture Stone had shown since their arrangement began. She had just raised the glass to her lips when a tall, striking woman in a red dress approached. "So you're Alexander's bride," she said, sliding into the seat beside Zara uninvited. "Vanessa Mercer. I'm sure Alexander has mentioned me." He hadn't, but something in the woman's tone made Zara wary. "I'm afraid not." "It's lovely to meet you, Ms. Mercer." Vanessa's perfectly painted lips curved in a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "How interesting. Considering I was heading Stone's cybersecurity division until last month. Alexander and I were quite close." The insinuation was clear. Zara maintained her composed expression, though her mind raced. Was this woman a former lover? A business rival? Both? "Business partnerships come and go," Zara replied smoothly. "But marriage is a different kind of partnership altogether, isn't it?" Vanessa leaned closer. "Let me give you some advice, Mrs. Stone. Alexander doesn't know how to love anything except his company. Whatever he promised you to get you into his bed and on his arm, it's temporary. I've known him for years. The only lasting relationship he's capable of is with power." Before Zara could respond, Stone materialized beside them, his expression glacial as he looked at Vanessa. "I wasn't aware you were invited tonight, Vanessa." The woman stood, smoothing her dress. "Industry events are open to industry leaders, Alexander. My new position at Rival Tech qualified me for an invitation." She smiled at Zara. "Lovely to meet the newest acquisition in the Stone portfolio. I wonder what her depreciation schedule looks like." As she sauntered away, Stone's jaw clenched visibly. "Ignore her." Vanessa left Stone Technologies under contentious circumstances. "She seemed to know you quite well," Zara couldn't help observing. "Professional acquaintance only." Vanessa wanted more, professionally and personally. "When I made it clear neither was happening, she took a position with my chief competitor." He offered his hand to help Zara stand. "It's time for the award presentation. Remember, all eyes will be on us." As they moved toward the stage, Zara processed this new information. Stone had enemies, people who knew him well enough to have feelings about him, even if those feelings were negative. It humanized him slightly, knowing he wasn't universally feared and obeyed. On stage, accepting his innovation award, Stone transformed. His speech was charismatic, passionate about the future of technology and security. For the first time, Zara glimpsed what might be genuine emotion as he spoke about protecting people's data, their privacy, their safety in an increasingly connected world. When he thanked her, "My wife, whose support has been invaluable," the words were empty, but his performance was flawless. To everyone watching, they appeared the perfect power couple. The ride back to the mansion was silent. Zara stared out the window at the passing city lights, conscious of Stone beside her, tapping on his phone. The evening had been exhausting, smiling until her cheeks hurt, maintaining the facade of a happily married woman while feeling like merchandise on display. "You performed well tonight," Stone said finally, not looking up from his device. Richard was impressed. "Is that all that matters? That your mentor believes our lie?" Stone set his phone down, turning to study her. "What matters is that our arrangement functions as intended. You played your part convincingly. I'm acknowledging that." "How generous of you to notice," Zara replied, fingering the sapphires at her throat. "Do I return these now, or are they part of my costume for the next performance?" Something flickered in Stone's dark eyes, annoyance perhaps or surprise at her directness. "They're yours. Consider them compensation for tonight." "I don't want compensation. I want—" Zara stopped herself, unsure what she actually wanted beyond freedom, which wasn't an option. "What? What do you want, Mrs. Stone?" For once he seemed genuinely curious. Zara met his gaze steadily. "Respect. Not gifts. Not empty compliments on my performance. Basic human respect." Stone studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he returned to his phone. "The jewels are yours regardless. Do with them what you wish." Back at the mansion, Zara headed directly to her suite, desperate to shed the designer dress and facade of contented wife. She had just changed into a silk robe when a knock came at her door. It was Stone, still in his tuxedo but with the bow tie undone. He'd never come to her rooms before. "May I come in?" he asked, unexpectedly formal. Zara stepped back, allowing him into the sitting room. He looked out of place among her things, too large and intense for the delicate furniture and soft colors. Vanessa Mercer approached you tonight, he said without preamble. What did she say? Zara crossed her arms. Why do you care? She's just a disgruntled former employee, right? Vanessa is more than disgruntled. She's vindictive and potentially dangerous. Her new position at Rival Tech gives her resources. She told me you're incapable of love. That I'm just your newest acquisition. Zara watched his face for a reaction. Was she right? Stone's jaw tightened. Vanessa and I had a strictly professional relationship that ended when she attempted to sell proprietary technology to competitors. Her personal feelings are irrelevant. That doesn't answer my question. I don't owe you explanations about my past. You bought me, Zara reminded him sharply. You made me your wife without my consent. If there are people in your life who might target me because of their feelings toward you, I deserve to know. Something shifted in Stone's expression, recognition perhaps that she had a valid point. He moved to the window, looking out at the dark grounds beyond. Vanessa proposed a partnership, personal and professional, 2 years ago. I declined. She didn't take it well. Last month, security caught her attempting to download classified project files. Rather than press charges, I terminated her employment. She immediately joined Rival Tech and has been attempting to undermine Stone Technologies since. And you didn't think to warn me before parading me in front of her? I didn't expect her to be there tonight. For the first time he looked slightly defensive. Security was supposed to have monitored the guest list. Well, they missed one. Zara sank into a chair, suddenly tired. Is there anyone else I should worry about? Other rejected women? Business enemies? The mob. The corner of Stone's mouth twitched, almost a smile. No mob connections. And Vanessa was never. We were never involved in that way. Zara studied him, trying to reconcile the cold businessman who had bought her with the man standing uncomfortably in her sitting room, almost awkward as he discussed his personal history. Why did you really make this arrangement? She asked suddenly. The truth. Not some line about needing a wife for appearances. Stone was silent for so long she thought he might not answer. Finally he said, the Stone family name meant something once. My grandfather built a security company from nothing, protecting people when no one else would. My father expanded it into new markets. When they died, car accident, I was 20, I inherited a legacy in shambles. My father's second wife had nearly bankrupted the company with her spending, her family's demands. He paced as he spoke, his voice steady but with an undercurrent of old anger. I rebuilt everything from the ground up. New technology, new markets, new reputation. Stone Technologies is now the industry leader in security systems. But to take it to the next level, international expansion, government contracts, I need a certain image, stability, respectability. A wife, Zara supplied. Yes, but not just anyone. Someone intelligent enough to understand the business world. Someone composed enough to handle public scrutiny. Someone with no pre-existing connections to my competitors. So when my father couldn't pay his debt, I saw an opportunity. Your background check showed intelligence, education, and discretion. Your family's business gave you relevant experience without industry connections. You were suitable. How romantic, Zara said drily. Stone's expression remained serious. I told you this isn't about romance. It's about building something that lasts. Something bigger than either of us. And what do I get from this grand vision? Besides jewelry and designer clothes? Security, stability, freedom from financial worry. And after our contracted time together, a settlement that will allow you to pursue whatever life you wish. It sounded rehearsed, practiced, like he'd justified the arrangement to himself this way many times. And if I wanted more than just waiting out my sentence? Zara challenged. If I wanted to do something meaningful with my life now? Stone considered her, his dark eyes assessing. What did you want to do? Before all this? The question surprised her. It was the first time he'd shown any interest in her as a person rather than a possession. I wanted to open a boutique, she admitted. Fashion design has always been my passion. I was working on a business plan, had started designing my first collection. Show me, he said abruptly. What? Your designs. Your business plan. Show me. Hesitantly, Zara retrieved her portfolio and the business plan she'd brought from home. Stone took them to the desk, flipping through the sketches with unexpected care, examining the numbers and projections on her carefully prepared spreadsheets. These are good, he said finally, sounding almost surprised. The designs are innovative but wearable. The business model is solid, though your initial capital estimates are low. Zara blinked, astonished by his serious assessment. I was planning to start small. Build gradually. Inefficient. He tapped the portfolio. With proper funding and connections, you could launch directly at a sustainable scale. Are you saying? I'll have my business team review this. If they agree with my assessment, Stone Ventures could provide seed funding. Zara stared at him, trying to process this sudden shift. Why would you do that? Stone closed the portfolio, his expression once again unreadable. Consider it an investment in our arrangement. You'll be more effective as my wife if you're not completely miserable. He headed for the door, then paused. And Zara, you have talent. It would be wasteful not to develop it. With that, he was gone, leaving Zara staring after him in confusion. For the first time since this nightmare began, she glimpsed something beneath Stone's cold exterior. Something almost human. As she ready for bed, his words echoed in her mind. An investment in our arrangement. Even his compliments were wrapped in business terms. Yet he'd looked at her work with genuine attention, offered a chance at her dream, albeit under his control. Was it just another form of ownership? Or could it be the beginning of something that might make these 2 years bearable? Zara fell asleep with no answers, only the unsettling realization that Alexander Stone was more complex than she had allowed herself to believe. 2 weeks after the gala, Zara found herself in a sunlit studio space in the city's arts district, surrounded by fabric samples, design sketches, and 3 young designers hired to help execute her vision. Stone had not only approved her business plan but fast-tracked it, setting up ZW Designs with funding, space, and staff in record time. Mrs. Stone, the fabric supplier, called. The Japanese silk you wanted will be delayed another week, reported Maya, the project coordinator Stone's company had assigned to her team. Let's go with the alternative we discussed, Zara decided, pinning a revised sketch to the mood board. The deadline for the sample collection is too tight to wait. It still felt surreal, her dream taking shape around her, facilitated by the very man who had taken her freedom. Zara couldn't decide if it was a genuine opportunity or an elaborate distraction to keep her compliant in their arrangement. She saw little of Stone himself. Their interactions remained limited to occasional dinners and brief updates about upcoming events where her presence would be required. He never mentioned her design work directly, though progress reports surely crossed his desk. The studio door opened, admitting Stone's assistant, a severe woman named Helen who served as his gatekeeper. Mrs. Stone, your husband requests your presence at dinner tonight. 7 o'clock. He has guests. Zara nodded, suppressing her irritation at the presumption that she would simply adjust her schedule to his whims. Who are the guests? The Taylors. Potential investors in Stone Technologies' international expansion. Mr. Stone suggests the blue Valentino for tonight. Even her clothing was dictated. Zara forced a smile. Thank you, Helen. I'll be there. After the assistant left, Maya approached cautiously. We can reschedule tomorrow's meetings if you need time to prepare for tonight. No need, Zara replied firmly. This project has deadlines too. Stone Technologies isn't the only priority. Back at the mansion, Zara found the suggested Valentino laid out in her dressing room. As she prepared for dinner, she reflected on her strange new existence. Part prisoner, part trophy wife, part emerging designer. Stone had kept his word about supporting her business, but the venture remained firmly under his control. The company was structured as a subsidiary of Stone Ventures, with Zara as creative director but not owner. At precisely 7, Zara descended the grand staircase to find Stone waiting with an older couple in the main sitting room. His eyes moved over her approvingly. The Valentino fit perfectly, its deep blue complementing her skin tone exactly as his stylist had no doubt calculated. Darling, there you are, Stone greeted her, using the endearment for their audience. He guided her forward with a hand at the small of her back. James, Margaret, my wife Zara. Lovely to meet you, Zara said warmly, slipping into her role with practiced ease. James Taylor, a distinguished man in his 60s, kissed her hand with old-world charm. Alexander has been keeping you all to himself. We've been trying to get an invitation for weeks. My fault entirely, Stone said smoothly, his arm sliding around Zara's waist in a possessive gesture that looked affectionate to observers. I've been selfishly guarding our time together. Newlyweds, you understand. Margaret Taylor smiled indulgently. Of course. Though I must say, you've caused quite a stir in our circles, my dear. Alexander has been the most eligible bachelor in tech for so long, many had given up hope of him ever settling down. Dinner progressed with pleasant conversation, the Taylors clearly enchanted by the fiction of Stone's whirlwind romance. Zara played her part flawlessly, sharing edited versions of how they met, their courtship, Stone's unexpected proposal. "And now you're launching a design house," Margaret noted with interest. "Alexander mentioned you're quite talented." Zara nearly dropped her wine glass, startled that Stone had discussed her work. "It's a small project," she said carefully. "Still in development." "Zara is being modest," Stone interjected, surprising her further. "Her designs are innovative and commercially promising. Stone Ventures expects significant returns on our investment." "Always the businessman," James laughed. "But I'd love to see your work sometime, my dear. My daughter runs several boutiques in Europe. Perhaps there could be synergy there." "That would be wonderful," Zara replied, mind racing at the unexpected opportunity. Later, as Stone escorted the Taylors to their waiting car, Margaret pulled Zara aside. "He's different with you," the older woman observed. "Softer somehow. It's good to see." Zara didn't know how to respond to that. Softer was not a word she associated with Alexander Stone. When Stone returned, she expected him to retire to his office as usual. Instead, he poured 2 glasses of brandy, offering one to her. "The Taylors were impressed," he said, leaning against the fireplace mantel. "Their investment is all but secured." "I'm glad my performance was satisfactory," Zara replied, taking a small sip of the expensive spirit. Stone studied her over the rim of his glass. "It wasn't a performance. You were genuinely engaging. The Taylors respond to authenticity. Unlike you?" His mouth quirked slightly. "I respond to competence and intelligence, both of which you displayed tonight." It was as close to a genuine compliment as he'd ever offered. Zara found herself unexpectedly warmed by it. "You mentioned my designs," she said, watching his face carefully. "Have you been monitoring my work?" "I receive progress reports on all Stone Ventures investments," he replied neutrally. "But you spoke as if you'd seen the actual designs." Stone set down his glass. "I have. The quarterly presentation included your preliminary collection." And what? What did you think?" Zara pressed, surprising herself with how much his opinion suddenly mattered. Stone considered her question with unexpected seriousness. "I think you have a strong aesthetic vision and good instincts for what women actually want to wear. The construction is innovative but practical. If execution matches concept, the collection will be commercially successful." Zara blinked, taken aback by his detailed assessment. "You know about fashion design?" "I know about market viability and product differentiation. The principles apply across industries." He picked up his glass again. "But yes, I've learned about construction and materials since reviewing your business plan. It seemed prudent to understand the investment." The idea of Alexander Stone researching fashion terminology and concepts to better evaluate her work was strangely touching. For the first time, Zara felt seen by him, not as property or a convenient solution to his image needs, but as a creative professional with legitimate skills. "James Taylor's offer to connect you with his daughter's boutiques is worth pursuing," Stone continued. "European distribution would accelerate brand recognition." I was surprised he knew about my work at all. "I may have mentioned it when we discussed potential areas for cross-investment." Stone's expression remained businesslike, but something in his tone suggested the mention hadn't been purely strategic. They stood in companionable silence for a moment, the crackling fire casting warm light across the room. It felt almost normal, a husband and wife discussing their days, sharing a nightcap before bed. Except nothing about their relationship was normal. "The Japanese silk supplier," Stone said suddenly. "Their delay is causing problems with your production schedule." Zara stared at him. "How do you know about that?" "As I said, I receive reports." He checked his watch. "I'll have someone look into expediting the shipment." "That's not necessary. We've found an alternative." "The alternative is acceptable but not optimal. Your design concept requires the specific drape of the Japanese silk." Stone moved toward the door. "Consider it handled." "Alexander," Zara called, stopping him. It was the first time she'd used his first name. "Thank you. For supporting the project. For seeing its value." He studied her for a long moment, his dark eyes unreadable in the firelight. "Good night, Zara," he said finally, his voice softer than she'd ever heard it. As she prepared for bed that night, Zara found herself confused by her own feelings. The business arrangement still rankled. The lack of freedom, the cold transaction that had brought her here. But Stone's unexpected support for her design work, his attention to details that mattered to her. It complicated the simple narrative of villain and victim she'd constructed. The next morning, a message from the fabric supplier confirmed that the Japanese silk would arrive within 2 days, all shipping delays mysteriously resolved. And for the first time since arriving at the mansion, Zara found a personal note alongside her breakfast tray. Car will collect you at 9 a.m. for the studio if that suits your schedule. If that suits your schedule. A small acknowledgement of her autonomy, but it felt significant. Something was shifting between them, subtle but undeniable. The question was whether that shift represented genuine change or simply a more sophisticated form of control. For the next month, Zara divided her time between the design studio and her duties as Mrs. Alexander Stone. The dual existence was oddly liberating. In the studio she was simply Zara Williams, creative director, respected for her vision and talent rather than her marital status. Only Maya and the financial team knew of her connection to Stone Technologies, allowing her a taste of independence she hadn't expected in her gilded cage. The collection was taking shape, sophisticated yet bold pieces designed for confident women who wanted fashion that expressed personality without sacrificing practicality. To Zara's surprise, Stone maintained his distance from the project, providing resources but not interference. One evening, working late at the studio, Zara was startled by a knock at the door. Security was strict about access, another reminder of Stone's controlling nature, so she expected Maya or one of the other team members who had clearance. Instead, Alexander Stone himself stood in the doorway, looking somewhat out of place among the dress forms and fabric swatches in his impeccable suit. "Alexander," she said, unable to hide her surprise. "What are you doing here?" "You missed dinner," he replied, stepping inside and surveying the creative chaos of the workspace. Mrs. Reynolds was concerned. "I'm not a child who needs monitoring," Zara replied, though without the edge that would have colored such a response weeks before. "I told Amara I'd be working late." "Yes, well, communication in the household can be improved." He moved around the studio, examining sketches and in-progress garments with apparent interest. "Your collection has evolved significantly. You've seen the progress reports?" "Yes. But seeing the physical pieces is different." He stopped before a nearly completed evening gown in deep burgundy silk. "This wasn't in the original concept. Inspiration struck last week," Zara explained, moving to stand beside him. The silhouette was inspired by 1950s Dior, but with modern construction techniques that give it more movement. Stone touched the fabric lightly, his large hand incongruous against the delicate material. "The color is striking. It's called Midnight Wine." Zara felt oddly nervous having him examine her work in person. His opinion shouldn't matter, yet somehow it did. "It reminds me of my mother's favorite dress," he said unexpectedly, his voice quieter than usual. "She wore something similar to the last charity gala before she died." It was the most personal thing he'd ever shared with her. Zara studied his profile, noticing for the first time the faint lines around his eyes that spoke of more than just business pressure. "How old were you?" "When she died," she clarified when he glanced at her. 16. Cancer. "My father followed 4 years later, the car accident I mentioned." His tone was matter-of-fact, but Zara sensed the carefully controlled emotion beneath. "I'm sorry," she said simply. Stone nodded once, moving away from the gown to examine other pieces. "Your team speaks highly of your creative process, particularly your attention to how the garments actually feel to wear. Too many designers create beautiful clothes that are uncomfortable or impractical," Zara explained, warming to her favorite subject. "I believe women shouldn't have to choose between looking amazing and being comfortable. A philosophy with broader applications than fashion," Stone observed. "The best security systems are those that provide protection without impeding normal operation." Zara laughed despite herself. "Only you would find parallels between evening gowns and security technology." The corner of Stone's mouth lifted slightly, the closest thing to a genuine smile she'd seen from him. "Professional hazard. I see everything through the lens of systems and functionality." "Even people?" His eyes met hers, unexpectedly direct. "Especially people." Something in his gaze made Zara's pulse quicken, an awareness she hadn't allowed herself to acknowledge before. Alexander Stone was an attractive man, when he wasn't being coldly intimidating. The moment stretched between them, tense with unspoken possibilities, before Stone deliberately broke it by checking his watch. You haven't eaten, he stated. There's a restaurant nearby that stays open late. The owner owes me a favor, they'll seat us despite the hour. Zara hesitated, torn between maintaining her independence and the genuine hunger she'd been ignoring for hours. I should finish these adjustments. They'll wait until morning, Stone countered. Your team needs you functioning at optimal levels. That requires proper nutrition. She almost smiled at his clinical framing of basic human concern. Always the pragmatist. Is that acceptance? It's hunger winning over stubbornness, she admitted, setting aside her work. Let me get my coat. The restaurant was small but elegant, tucked away on a side street just blocks from the studio. The owner greeted Stone warmly, leading them to a secluded table in the back garden, strung with fairy lights that created a surprisingly romantic atmosphere. You come here often? Zara asked as they settled in. Occasionally. It's one of the few places where I'm treated as a regular customer rather than a business opportunity. Stone scanned the menu briefly before setting it aside. Raphael makes excellent decisions. I suggest we leave the selection to him. It was strange seeing Stone in this environment. More relaxed than in business settings, more personable than at the mansion. He exchanged easy conversation with the owner in fluent Italian, laughed at something the sommelier said while approving the wine. You speak Italian, Zara observed when they were alone. And Spanish, French, and enough Mandarin to avoid embarrassing myself, he replied. International business requires communication skills. Is that all languages are to you? Business tools? Stone considered the question seriously, swirling his wine before answering. No. My mother was a linguist, taught at the university. She believed language was the gateway to understanding culture, people, how they think. That doesn't sound like something the Alexander Stone I know would value. He raised an eyebrow. And which Alexander Stone do you know exactly? The question caught her off guard. Which version did she know? The cold businessman who had essentially purchased her? The controlled public figure who performed the role of husband at events? Or this newer version, still reserved but occasionally revealing glimpses of a more complex person beneath the surface? I'm not sure I know any version of you, she admitted. Just the fragments you allow people to see. Stone studied her over the rim of his wineglass. An accurate assessment. And which fragments have you seen? The ruthless businessman. The controlling husband. The surprisingly insightful mentor. Zara held his gaze. Occasionally, very briefly, someone who might actually have normal human emotions. To her surprise, Stone laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his face, softening the hard lines and illuminating his eyes. Normal human emotions. What a terrifying concept. Is it? Terrifying to be human? The amusement faded from his expression, replaced by something more contemplative. Humanity is messy, irrational, unpredictable. Business requires clarity and control. And that's all that matters? Business. It was. For a long time. Stone fell silent as the first courses arrived, delicate plates of handmade pasta and seafood that smelled divine. They ate in companionable silence for a few minutes, the food as exceptional as promised. Zara felt oddly comfortable in this unexpected scenario, an almost normal dinner with the man who had upended her life. Tell me about your family, Stone said suddenly. Before our arrangement. Were you close? The question startled her. He'd never shown interest in her personal history before. Yes, she said cautiously. Despite everything, we were close. My father built his security firm from nothing. My mother gave up her teaching career to help him run it. My brother is in college now, engineering. They wanted more for us than they had. They must have been desperate to agree to our arrangement. Zara tensed. Is that why you're asking? To justify what you did? Stone set down his fork. No. I'm asking because I want to understand you better. Why now? It's been months. He didn't answer immediately, seeming to choose his words carefully. Our arrangement has evolved. You've proven to be more than I anticipated. A more valuable asset, you mean? A more complex person. Stone's dark eyes held hers. One who perhaps deserves more than our original arrangement offered. Zara's heart quickened. What are you saying? I'm considering adjustments to our terms. Your design work has demonstrated that you can be a true partner in certain respects, not merely an accessory. A business partner? Zara studied him, the exhaustion evident in every line of his body, the weight of responsibility he carried alone. You should rest, she said, surprising herself with the concern in her voice. You can't protect your empire if you collapse from exhaustion. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Worried about me, Mrs. Stone? Worried about the arrangement, she countered, though they both knew it wasn't entirely true. What's your plan for handling Vanessa? Containment and counteroffensive. We're strengthening security protocols, accelerating the platform launch, and preparing legal action if she attempts to use the stolen information. And me? Do I just stay hidden in the mansion indefinitely? Stone shook his head. No. In fact, we need to be more visible than ever. Show a united front. Vanessa's leverage depends on proving our marriage is a sham. We need to convince everyone, including her, that it's evolved into something genuine. You want us to pretend we've fallen in love? The idea should have been ridiculous, offensive even. Instead, it sent an unexpected curl of heat through Zara's chest. I want us to present as a committed couple with genuine respect and affection for each other. Not difficult, considering our recent developments. His eyes held hers, searching for something. Unless you find the idea completely repugnant. No, Zara admitted quietly. Not completely. Something shifted in Stone's expression. A softening, a vulnerability she'd never seen before. For a moment she thought he might say something significant. Instead he drained his whiskey and stood. There's a charity gala tomorrow night. Major donors, political figures, industry leaders. Vanessa will almost certainly attend. It would be the perfect venue for our first appearance as a closer couple. What would that entail exactly? Small things. Physical affection. Shared glances. The behaviors of people who have moved beyond a business arrangement to genuine connection. Zara swallowed hard, suddenly aware of how close they were standing, of the intensity in Stone's dark eyes. I can manage that. Good. His voice had dropped lower, sending an involuntary shiver along her spine. Mrs. Reynolds will brief you on the details tomorrow. For now, we both need rest. He reached out, hesitating for just a moment before brushing his fingers against her cheek in the gentlest touch she'd felt from him. Good night, Zara. Long after he left, she could still feel the warmth of his fingertips against her skin. The charity gala was held at the Natural History Museum, its grand hall transformed into an enchanted garden for the Preserving Our Planet themed event. As their limousine joined the queue of luxury vehicles, Zara felt Alexander's hand cover hers, warm and steadying. Nervous? He asked, his voice low. She was, but not for the reasons he might assume. Playing the loving wife wasn't what unsettled her. It was how easily she could imagine it becoming real. I'm fine, she assured him, though her racing heart suggested otherwise. Stone looked devastatingly handsome in his tuxedo, the exhaustion of recent days concealed by his innate confidence. And for once, he seemed genuinely attentive to her, his eyes lingering appreciatively on the gold gown she'd selected from her own designs. Her first public appearance in one of her creations. You look beautiful, he said as the car stopped at the entrance. That color suits you. Thank you. She smiled, surprised by how natural it felt. You don't look terrible yourself. A hint of amusement touched his eyes as he helped her from the car. Unlike their previous public appearances, he kept her close, his hand resting at the small of her back as they navigated the red carpet. To onlookers, they appeared completely in sync, a powerful couple comfortable in their intimacy. Inside, Stone guided her through the crowd with practiced ease, introducing her proudly to business associates and political figures. When his hand settled on her waist or when he leaned close to speak in her ear, Zara found herself responding naturally, leaning into his touch, smiling up at him with genuine warmth. It was dangerous how easily they slipped into these roles, or perhaps they weren't roles at all anymore. Alexander Stone and his bride, came a coolly amused voice. The picture of marital bliss. Vanessa Mercer stood before them in a striking red dress, her smile sharp as a blade. Up close, Zara could see the controlled fury in the woman's eyes, the tension in her perfect posture. Vanessa, Stone acknowledged with professional politeness. I wasn't aware you supported environmental causes. I support many things, Alexander. Information freedom, for example. Her gaze shifted to Zara. How are you enjoying married life, Mrs. Stone? Everything you expected from your arrangement. The subtle emphasis on the word made its meaning clear. This was Vanessa's first move, testing whether Zara might be manipulated, might confirm what she suspected. Zara felt Alexander tense beside her but didn't hesitate. Marriage is always an arrangement of sorts, isn't it? She replied smoothly. The difference is in finding someone whose values and vision align with yours. I've been fortunate in that respect. She leaned into Alexander's side, feeling his arm tighten around her waist in response. The gratitude in his eyes was unmistakable. Vanessa's smile thinned. How philosophical. And convenient, given the timing of your sudden union. Right before the government contracts were announced. Some opportunities simply can't be ignored, Stone replied evenly. In business and in personal life. Speaking of which, how is rival tech's attempt to duplicate our security platform progressing? Still encountering those persistent encryption issues? Vanessa's perfectly made-up face couldn't quite hide her flash of anger. We've moved beyond your outdated approach, Alexander. The market will see that soon enough. I look forward to the competition, he said smoothly. Now, if you'll excuse us, my wife and I should greet our hosts. As they moved away, Zara felt Vanessa's eyes boring into her back. She's not giving up, she murmured to Alexander. No, he agreed, guiding her toward a quieter corner. But you handled that perfectly. She knows, Alexander. She's just looking for confirmation. Which she won't get. His hand squeezed hers gently. Not if we continue as we are. The evening progressed like a carefully choreographed dance. They stayed close, touched often, exchanged intimate smiles that seemed increasingly genuine. When Stone was called to the stage to announce his company's major donation to conservation technology, he acknowledged Zara with such apparent affection that whispers rippled through the crowd. My wife has opened my eyes to responsibilities beyond business, he told the audience, his gaze finding hers in the crowd. To building a future worth protecting. Later, as the orchestra played and couples took to the dance floor, Stone led Zara into his arms without hesitation. They moved together with surprising synchronicity, his hand warm against the small of her back, her body fitting against his as if designed for that purpose. We have an audience, he murmured, his breath warm against her ear. Vanessa, 2:00. Zara didn't need to look. Then we should give her something to see. She leaned back slightly, meeting his eyes with a challenging look. Something flared in his dark gaze, heat, intensity, a question. Then he lowered his head and kissed her. It was meant to be for show, a calculated move in their performance. But the moment his lips touched hers, something electric passed between them. The kiss deepened, his hands sliding up to cradle her face with unexpected tenderness. Zara found herself responding instinctively, her fingers curling into the lapels of his jacket, drawing him closer. When they finally parted, both slightly breathless, the look in Stone's eyes had changed. Gone was the calculated businessman, replaced by something raw and vulnerable she'd never seen before. Zara, he began, his voice rough with emotion. But they were interrupted by the urgent approach of Stone's security chief, who leaned in to whisper something in his ear. Stone's expression instantly hardened. We need to leave, he said, taking her arm. Now. In the car, Stone was on his phone immediately, his voice tense as he issued rapid instructions to his team. Full lockdown. Activate Protocol 7. No, don't wait for my arrival. Do it now. What's happening? Zara asked when he finally ended the call. Another breach attempt. More sophisticated this time. His jaw was tight with tension. And something else. A threat specifically against you. Me? Zara felt cold dread pool in her stomach. What kind of threat? Electronic message, untraceable. Suggesting that you're in danger as long as you remain with me. His eyes met hers, filled with something that looked remarkably like fear. We're not going home. Too predictable. I have a secure location upstate. We'll go there until the situation is contained. The drive was tense, Stone alternating between making calls and sitting in grim silence, his hand finding hers in the darkness of the car. Whether the gesture was for comfort or reassurance, Zara couldn't tell, but she held on tightly, the events of the evening swirling in her mind. The secure location turned out to be a modernist lakehouse, all glass and stone nestled into the woods with views across a private lake. Inside, it was smaller than the mansion but no less luxurious, with an open floor plan and minimalist furnishings. Security perimeter is active, Stone informed her after checking the property's systems. We're safe here. He looked exhausted, the strain of recent days finally showing through his composed exterior. Without thinking, Zara reached up to loosen his bow tie. You should rest, she said gently. You can't keep going like this. His hand caught hers, holding it against his chest. She could feel his heart beating rapidly beneath her palm. Zara, he said, his voice rough with emotion. I need to tell you something. What is it? This arrangement, our marriage, it started as a business decision. Cold, calculated, without consideration for your feelings or desires. I remember, she said quietly. But something's changed. His dark eyes searched hers intently. I've changed. The way I see you, the way I feel when I'm with you. Zara's heart pounded. What are you saying, Alexander? I'm saying that what began as an arrangement has become more. At least for me. His thumb traced circles on her palm, sending shivers up her arm. Tonight, when we kissed, that wasn't performance for me. The admission hung between them, charging the air with possibility. Zara searched his face, looking for signs of manipulation or strategy, finding only raw vulnerability instead. I don't expect you to reciprocate, he continued when she remained silent. I understand that the circumstances of our marriage make any genuine feeling complicated, perhaps impossible. But I needed you to know the truth. Why now? She finally asked. Because tonight made me realize that I could lose you. Not just to external threats but to the walls I've built between us. His voice dropped lower. And I don't want to lose you, Zara. Something broke open inside her, all the confusing emotions she'd been suppressing for weeks flooding to the surface. The initial hatred had gradually transformed into respect, then understanding, then something more complex she hadn't dared name. I don't want to lose you either, she admitted softly. Stone's expression transformed, hope and disbelief mingling in his eyes. Slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away, he leaned down to kiss her. Not for show this time, not for strategy or manipulation, but with genuine feeling. This kiss was different from the one they'd shared on the dance floor. Gentler, questioning, free from performance. When they parted, something had fundamentally shifted between them. Where do we go from here? Zara whispered. I don't know, Stone admitted, the uncertainty so unlike his usual confident demeanor. But I'd like to find out. Together. He led her to the living room where they sat talking until dawn, not as business partners or reluctant spouses, but as two people discovering each other for the first time. Stone spoke of his childhood, the loss of his parents, the lonely years building his empire. Zara shared her dreams beyond the design studio, her family's struggles, her fears and hopes. As sunlight began to filter through the trees outside, Stone's phone rang with news from his security team. His expression grew serious as he listened. It appears Vanessa wasn't working alone, he told Zara after ending the call. The threats, the data breaches, they were coordinated with someone inside Stone Technologies. Someone with access to our personal information. Who? My CFO Richard Dalton. He's been secretly working with rival tech for months, feeding them information. But why target me? Why make our marriage the focus? Stone sighed, running a hand through his disheveled hair. Because you're my vulnerability, Zara. The one thing I can't protect with technology or security protocols. The one thing I truly care about. The words hung in the air between them, a confession more intimate than any they'd shared through the night. We need to end this, Zara said determinedly. Not by hiding but by confronting them directly. Stone raised an eyebrow. What do you suggest? We use their assumptions against them. She leaned forward, mind racing with possibilities. They think our marriage is a sham, a business arrangement I'm trapped in. What if we show them and everyone that it's become real? How? The launch of your new security platform next week. It's already a major media event. What if we make it personal too? A public renewal of our vows, a statement about our relationship that's so genuine no one could doubt it. A renewal ceremony at a product launch? Stone looked skeptical. Is that even appropriate? It's unexpected and attention-grabbing. Perfect for countering their narrative with ours. Zara's excitement built as the plan took shape. And meanwhile your security team gathers evidence against Richard and Vanessa, ready to move once they show their hand. A slow smile spread across Stone's face, not his public mask or business expression, but something genuine and warm that transformed his features. Mrs. Stone, he said with newfound respect, you would have made an excellent strategist. I learned from the best, she replied with a smile of her own. So, is it a plan? He took her hand, bringing it to his lips in a gesture that sent warmth flooding through her. It's a plan. As they began plotting the details, Zara marveled at the strange journey that had brought her here, from unwilling bride to willing partner, from prisoner to protector of the very empire that had once seemed her cage. Whatever came next, one thing was certain. Nothing between them would ever be the same again. The Grand Plaza Hotel's ballroom hummed with anticipation. Tech industry leaders, government officials, media representatives, all gathered for the launch of Stone Technologies' revolutionary new security platform, promoted as the future of digital protection. Behind the scenes, Zara adjusted Alexander's tie, her fingers lingering against the crisp fabric of his shirt. The past week had transformed their relationship in ways neither could have predicted, each day bringing new discoveries, new connections, new understanding. "Nervous?" she asked, noting the tension in his shoulders. "About the platform?" "No. About what comes after." His dark eyes held hers. "Terrified." She smiled, straightening his collar. "The great Alexander Stone, afraid of a simple vow renewal?" "There's nothing simple about us," he replied, catching her hand and bringing it to his lips. "You know that." He was right. Their journey from forced arrangement to genuine partnership had been complicated, sometimes painful, but ultimately transformative. The man before her now was not the cold businessman who had essentially purchased her. He was someone who had learned to be vulnerable, to connect, to care about something beyond his empire. "Ready to face the lions?" she asked as they heard the announcement that the presentation would begin shortly. Stone's answer was a kiss, brief but filled with promise. "With you beside me? Always." The product launch proceeded flawlessly. Stone was in his element on stage, charismatic and commanding as he demonstrated the platform's capabilities. The audience responded with enthusiasm, particularly when he revealed the government contracts already secured for the technology. Then came the moment they'd planned. "Before we conclude," Stone announced, his voice echoing through the packed ballroom, "I'd like to take a moment for something personal." He extended his hand toward the side of the stage. "Zara, would you join me?" A murmur rippled through the crowd as Zara walked onto the stage in her gold designer gown, one of her own creations. Stone took her hand, his touch centering her as hundreds of eyes watched with curiosity. "Many of you know that I married this extraordinary woman earlier this year," he began, his voice softer than his business tone. "What you don't know is the full story of our journey." In the audience, Zara spotted Vanessa Mercer, her expression tight with suspicion. Beside her sat Richard Dalton, Stone's CFO, looking increasingly uncomfortable. "When Zara and I first met, I was focused solely on business. On building an empire. On control." Stone's gaze never left Zara's face as he spoke. "I approached our relationship the way I approached everything, as a transaction, a strategic move." Gasps and whispers spread through the audience. This was not the polished narrative they'd expected. "I was wrong," Stone continued, his voice rough with emotion. "What began as a business arrangement became something I never expected to find in this lifetime. A true partnership. A connection that transformed not just my company but me." Zara felt tears threatening as she watched the man who had once coldly dictated the terms of their marriage now openly vulnerable before hundreds of witnesses. "Today, as we launch technology designed to protect what matters most, I want to reaffirm my commitment to the person who matters most to me." He produced a small box from his pocket, opening it to reveal a stunning sapphire ring, not the platinum band from their original ceremony, but something new, chosen with genuine feeling. "Zara Williams Stone," he said, using her full name for the first time in public, "will you continue this journey with me, not as a business partner but as my true wife, my heart, my home?" The silence in the ballroom was absolute as everyone held their breath, waiting for her response. This wasn't in their script. They'd planned a brief, romantic gesture to solidify their image as a loving couple. Not this raw, honest declaration that laid bare the truth of their beginning while affirming the reality of what they'd become. Looking into Alexander's eyes, Zara saw not the calculating businessman who had orchestrated their original union, but a man transformed by love, a transformation she had witnessed and against all odds reciprocated. "Yes," she said simply, her voice clear and certain. "Yes, Alexander." The crowd erupted in applause as he slipped the ring onto her finger beside the original wedding band. When he kissed her, there was nothing performative about it, just the genuine connection of two people who had found each other in the most unlikely circumstances. From the corner of her eye, Zara saw Richard Dalton slipping toward the exit, face pale. Security personnel moved smoothly to intercept him, the arrest happening so discreetly most guests didn't even notice. Vanessa remained, her expression a storm of conflicting emotions as she watched the scene unfold. When her eyes met Zara's across the room, there was a moment of recognition, acknowledgement that whatever game she had been playing was decisively lost. Later, after the presentation concluded with record pre-orders for the new platform, after Richard Dalton was quietly taken into custody with evidence of corporate espionage, after congratulations and celebrations, Alexander and Zara finally found themselves alone in the limousine heading home. "Did you mean it?" Zara asked, her head resting against his shoulder. "All of it." Alexander lifted her hand, studying the sapphire ring beside the platinum band that had once represented their business arrangement. Every word. Though I didn't plan to do it quite so publicly. She laughed softly. Alexander Stone going off script? I never thought I'd see the day. You've changed me, he admitted, drawing her closer. In ways I'm still discovering. And you've changed me, she acknowledged. I came into this arrangement determined to hate you, to endure until I could escape. Now. Zara looked up at him, at the face that had once seemed so cold and unreachable, now warm with affection and hope. Now I can't imagine being anywhere else. As the limousine carried them back to the mansion, no longer a gilded cage but a shared home, Zara marveled at the unlikely journey that had brought them here. From forced bride to willing wife, from business arrangement to love story. There would be challenges ahead, remnants of Vanessa's vendetta to address, her design business to grow, their new relationship to nurture. But for the first time since signing that contract in her father's study with a gun at her temple, Zara felt truly free, not despite Alexander Stone, but because of the person he had become with her. What are you thinking? He asked, noticing her contemplative expression. That sometimes the worst beginnings can lead to the best outcomes, she replied, lacing her fingers through his. If someone had told me 6 months ago that I would freely choose you, I would have called them insane. And now I know that what matters isn't how a story begins but how it continues. How people grow, change, learn to see each other. She reached up to touch his face. How enemies can become allies. How arrangements can become choices. As they reached the mansion gates, lights shining welcomingly from within, Alexander pulled her close for another kiss, one of many they would share in the years to come, each more genuine than the last. Welcome home, Mrs. Stone, he murmured against her lips. And for the first time it truly felt like home.